doing well. Hope you all take a moment to jump in the chat, say hello. Another live stream. Usually I do these at 1 p.m., but today I was a little bit later. Hope everybody is okay. We are going to be talking today at some point about AEW, filming Collision and Dynamite last night. Dynamite last night, Collision tonight at the beautiful Windsor Masonic. Excuse me. I can talk. We're going to talk about AEW Dynamite and AEW Collision filming at the beautiful Detroit Masonic Temple. I love seeing Freemasonry and Masonic buildings being used for national and, in fact, international broadcasts of a sporting event as high profile as AEW professional wrestling. There have been a ton of pictures, a ton of people commenting on the venue and how beautiful it is. So I definitely want to talk about that. Also, very soon, I think actually by yesterday, in the States, I believe you need to get your real ID to travel. I'm going to move this a little bit. Give me 1 sec. Doesn't really apply to me because I am Canadian, but I understand for most people in the States, in order to travel, you now are required to get a real ID, which I don't know a ton about, but I do want to learn more about it. And again, I've said a million times, Freemasons are travelers. Traveling is a very important part of what it is to be a Freemason. And part of that also means knowing what the requirements are when it comes to travel, what the rules are in terms of identification, you need to travel, how to travel, whether that be nationally, internationally, domestic, international, and real ID seems to be a part of that in the States. So I think it's worth exploring that a little bit as well. But in the meantime, first, please jump in the chat, say hello. As always, the first hour is just me chatting, talking to people as they come on the stream, answering any questions they have about Freemasonry. And then the second hour is the specific topics. Philip Fodor, hello. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you are doing well. I hope you'll take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe button and let me know how it's going. And if you have any questions about Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I don't claim to know everything about Freemasonry, but I at least have some history, expertise, at least on my history of Freemasonry that hopefully can help others learn how they can get, in my opinion, the most out of their Masonic journey and how Masonic lodges, Masonic buildings can find the most success, at least again, based on my experiences. Philip, thank you so much for saying, of course, and I please, as I said, hope you hit the like and subscribe button. Ask me any questions you may have about Freemasonry. I will do my best to answer them. As always, can't make any promises, but I will try to answer as best as I can. Or anything else. Like I said, this first hour is always just me hanging out, seeing who wants to chat and what people want to talk about. So maybe you want to talk about something outside of Freemasonry. I can try my best to talk about those things as well. My other loves is scary movies, horror movies. I also really enjoy professional wrestling. But my first love, the thing I love to talk about the most is Freemasonry. Just got to update this description a little bit. I got to say, huge shout out to the AEW for one great night last night, and then what I'm sure will be another excellent night tonight, filming Collision Dynamite. Jack Nickerson, hello from Canada. Hello, Jack. I'm from Canada as well. Was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. But I live in Windsor, Ontario at the moment. Actually, for the moment, I've lived here since 2007. I'm from Hungary. Okay, I don't know a ton about Freemasonry in Hungary. I'd love to learn more. But I know it exists there. I'd love to learn more about Freemason Hungary, actually. I think that, as with most kind of Eastern European as countries, it's relatively new, or like most, it was, existed there in the late 17th, early 18th centuries, then went away for a while or went underground for a while, then came back in the 80s or 90s, if I'm not mistaken, because that tends to be the history of most Masonic groups and bodies in kind of Hungary area, Eastern European area. Just curious now. Complex history marked by periods of growth, suppression, and resurgence. Often that is the case. Mid-18th century, communist takeover in 1945, banned, resurgence following the fall of the Soviet Union, which tends to be very much the common kind of pattern in many of those countries. That's very true. That's very true for all of us, I think. Not just, but yeah, no, that's very, very much a true statement. So you're not alone in that one. I think we all have experienced various moments where we think we've got our ritual down, we're excited, we're all set, and then it turns out, nope, not at all. But that makes it more fun in some ways too, right? It's more fun to get nervous and excited. And again, congratulations to the Detroit Masonic Temple, Masonic Temple Theater, on hosting two absolutely amazing and incredible. Well, yesterday they hosted the first, today they're hosting the second. Really incredible AEW tapings. Everybody I've seen online is talking about how incredible it looked, having a Masonic building act as a venue for professional wrestling. Not only that, but like televised live professional wrestling. I think that's incredible, and Detroit Masonic Temple deserves all the respect in the world, as well as AEW for making it happen. Nothing but credit and respect to them. I posted a bunch of pictures on my socials. I hope that you guys, or reposted a bunch of pictures on my socials. I 100% hope you guys will check those out, because they are so incredible. And again, nothing but respect to AEW. Lil Mickey Mouse fan, how's it going? I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you'll be so kind as hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going, and if there's anything that you want to chat about. I talk about Freemasonry. I do these streams Monday through Friday. Today, I want to talk about two things. First, AEW hosting 2 wrestling shows at the Detroit Masonic Temple Theater. Why I think that's so important for Freemasonry and why I think it's incredible to see. And then a little bit of the Real ID program in the States, just because to be a Mason is to be a traveler. Part of being a traveler is being aware of the rules, regulations, requirements that exist in different countries when it comes to travel. So, and today, actually, yesterday, AEW hosted Dynamite. Today, Collision at 6 p.m. That is very true. It happens to many of us. You are not alone in that. I don't think any of us are alone in that experience, that's for sure. We got 5 votes, so interesting, about the Real ID program. Let me see. Looks like 4 no's, 1 yes. So most are not. I'm not sure if that's because most of the audience who've entered into this poll are from Canada or other places outside of the States and therefore it doesn't apply to them. Be curious though. Just waiting to see who jumps on the stream. I mean, it's interesting enough. There's been some people over the years who've done some different talks on public speaking in a Masonic context, like how to memorize ritual, particularly. Honestly, it would be kind of fun one day to kind of have that as a discussion. I think it could be a good time because it is kind of one of those things where it is super interesting because ritual, like memorizing ritual, is different than making a speech, right? It's a different kind of ball game. There's similarities for certain public speaking, what that is, what that looks like, but there are a lot of differences as well. And so I do think that it could be really interesting to think about, like what are those actual differences? And why is it that some people, and this does happen, I think, a lot more than people might think. Um, some people, it really is like they're really good at public speaking, but they're really good at ritual work, but they're not good at making like a speech that's not ritual. And for other people, um, it's the opposite. They are really good at making a speech, but they don't do well at ritual. It could be kind of fun one day to talk about why that is and how we can maybe, who knows, maybe consider doing some research on that and then doing some educational pieces on the difference between memorizing ritual and performing ritual versus having a speech, why that's different, and how we can potentially change that or help people with both. One of the things I've talked about before, actually, in when it comes to this kind of stuff, is how like one of the ways you can tell a new Mason versus an older Mason, or not even like a nervous Mason versus a more experienced Mason, is when they deliver ritual. The newer Masons have a tendency to be incredibly like nervous when they're providing it. So they tend to be very monotone in how they deliver ritual. They'll get even they might get all the words correct, which is very possible, but they'll deliver it in an incredibly monotone way where every word is exactly the same and there's no pauses in when they're speaking, and they say part A, then they say part B, then they say part C, and then they just keep talking until they almost pass out. Um, but the more experienced Masons are able to deliver ritual, but still make it something that is unique to them. That is something I really love, and I think oftentimes gets overlooked in Masonic ritual, right? And Dad just made a very good point. And again, this is what I was talking about earlier. The difference between there are some people, I don't know why, who are incredibly comfortable making doing ritual in lodge. Dad, I saw you do ritual. You did an amazing job. They are very comfortable doing ritual in lodge, but they get very nervous when it comes time to perform. They get very nervous when they have to make a speech. And other people are very comfortable making speeches, but they get very nervous doing ritual. Sometimes it's because of the audience that you're with, to be perfectly fair, right? Sometimes it's one of those situations where because you're with your Masonic brothers, you are more likely to be more comfortable providing ritual or even doing a speech. So I don't know. I do think that sometimes that can be the case for people, where the comfort or discomfort comes more from the people you're with. But I think there's a lot of different effects of that as well. In my humble opinion. But I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if there's anything you want to chat about when it comes to Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear it. Philip, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if you answered our poll question. Let me know if you have any questions about Freemasonry. As I noted, in the next hour, I will be switching it over and talking about Freemasonry, or using our Masonic buildings to film or for public events like AEW, which is at the amazing Detroit Masonic Temple. And I also want to talk a little bit about the Real ID program, because as Masons, we need to be travelers. Part of being travelers means caring about the requirements and rules and regulations of travel in wherever we happen to find ourselves. So what exactly is a Freemason? Simple answer: Freemason is a member of an organization. Usually it's a fraternal organization, so usually it's a man, although there are women Freemasons, but a member of an organization that traces its origins and its roots back to the Masonic guilds of medieval Europe. It is, amongst other things, a social club, a fraternity. Again, there are women Freemasons as well, though. But basically, you're part of a social group or a fraternity. Kind of a very formalized club, some would say. So that is what a Freemason is. It has been very popular throughout history. It goes up and down in popularity. Right now, it's more on a low ebb in terms of its popularity, but it goes up and down. So, simple answer: being a Freemason means someone who is a member of a Masonic lodge. Spirit, my passport can get the job done. So I've heard that for a lot of people, the Um, for a lot of people, that is the case. That they say in the States the passport is sufficient. It's funny, I travel a lot. I've spent a lot of times in American airports, and I have been hearing the announcements about the needing to get a real ID for years now, or at least I feel like a couple years. So I feel like, if nothing else, no one can say they didn't get a notice that this was going to be a necessary thing. Ryan, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. We missed you on Wednesday, but it was really fun. There was a good turnout. A lot of people were there. It was a lot of fun. Um, I agree. I think it is fun. I also think it is cool. So I really loved my time in Freemasonry. It is often a pain in the butt, don't get me wrong, but I also love it. I think, like anything in life, the more you love something, the more challenging you find it. Um, Spirit. So I've also heard that in some people, their driver's licenses are already sufficient for travel. They don't need to get a new one. There's a new pope. Well, I hope the new pope is more of a supporter of Freemasonry than the. Even though I did like, as much as I pay attention to these things, did really like the old pope. And I thought he did a lot of good things. I'm hoping that this new pope can mark a turning point in the relationships between Freemasonry and the Catholic Church. I'd love to see that. Your English is great. I mean, I can only speak two languages, English and bad English. So you're doing better than I am. Interesting. 8 votes. Looks like 2 yeses and 4 nos. So, no, sorry, 6 no and 2 yes to the Real ID. I was going to talk a little bit about the Real ID program, what it is, how it works, from what I understand about it, positive, negative, or neutral. But mostly, I do want to talk today about AEW in Detroit at the Detroit Masonic Temple. How incredible I think that is for Freemasonry to see, to see these posters that are being seen by millions of people, um, supporting our Masonic buildings, and how incredibly valuable that is. But Ryan, let me know. I saw you jump on a second ago. Let me know how you're doing. I'd love to. Well, sadly, the it's not in the Windsor Masonic Temple. It's in the Detroit Masonic Temple, so it's a different jurisdiction. So sadly, I cannot use my authority. I could try it. I could see. Maybe I'll get lucky. Who knows? Maybe I will get lucky and I'll be able to do something. It would be a lot of fun. Well, maybe that's a good sign. I mean, America, Freemasonry. I mean, Freemasonry has its detractors everywhere, unfortunately, even in America. But maybe, because I do think Freemasonry in America does tend to get a little bit more, um, there's a little bit more sometimes recognition of the value of it. Maybe that's a good sign. I meant their new pope. I can speak German, Hungarian, Croatian, English, and Turkish. I can speak English and bad English. So congratulations to you, sir. It's very impressive. I mean that seriously. It's incredibly impressive, the fact that you're able to speak so many different languages. Yeah, no, I get it, Spirit. I get it. Let me see if I can find out the name of the new pope. I'm kind of curious now. Let's see. New pope 2025. Robert Prevost as pope. Let's see. Looks like a younger fella, relatively speaking. U.S. Cardinal Robert Prevost has been elected Pope. The first time an American will lead the Roman Catholic Church, he chose the name Pope Leo the 14th. The 69-year-old new pope appeared at the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica and said, "Peace be with all of you." He said he wanted his message of peace to enter your hearts, reach your families, and all people wherever they are. He thanked his fellow cardinals for assisting him and spoke in Italian, Spanish, and Latin. Having spent years working in Peru, he thanked his former diocese in the South American country. "We're a loyal people, has shared his faith, and has given a lot," he said. He also spoke warmly of Pope Francis and concluded by leading the crowd in prayer. Okay. I wonder if maybe this might be an interesting time with somebody from Freemasonry. I'm not sure the best. Maybe the UGLE could contact the new pope and just say, is it worth exploring? Is it worth exploring the relationship we've had in the past, and maybe see if we can create a more positive relationship in future? I believe Freemasonry should try as much as we can to be friends with everybody. I think I've talked about this in the past. I mean, not everybody. There are exceptions. There are exceptions. But as a rule, Freemasonry should be universal. I mean, when Albert Pike famously, or infamously, depending on your political bent or conspiratorial side of things, described Freemasonry as a universal religion, he didn't mean it in the sense of religion as we would define it, having promise of salvation or threat of damnation or a designated interlocutor between the divine and the human, or tax status, or any other way that we would consider religion. What he meant is it's universal in that it's for everybody, and it's religious in the sense that it's something you do religiously in the same way I religiously stream on YouTube, or in the same way I religiously brush my teeth, or whatever it is, religiously, not in the religious sense of spiritualism, but religious in a sense of something you can do consistently and with pattern. So, for whatever it's worth. Having said that, though, so when he says universal religion, that means we should be in Freemasonry friendly with, all the different branches of Christianity, the Muslim faith, the Jewish faith, Wiccan, indigenous peoples and their beliefs, Sikh, Hindu, etc., etc., in my opinion. Thank you. I appreciate that, Philip. Well, if you want to support the stream, another way you can do so is support me by becoming a Patreon member. Square and Compass. Patreon.com/Square and Compass. I hope that you will consider doing so. I don't think so. I saw that you sent me a message, but I haven't looked at my Facebook Messenger in a little while, to be honest. So unfortunately, no. But there is co-Freemasonry in the States. I personally am not. So my view on it is I am a full supporter of women's Freemasonry, as well as Eastern Star, as well as Rainbow. I'm not a fan of necessarily co-Masonic lodges, although it is very common in France and it's growing. So who knows? Things change, September up topic. Hello, how's it going, September? I was born in September, so September is the greatest month. September, I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll please be so kind as hit the like button and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to chat about. I do these streams every Monday through Friday. We talk about Freemasonry, positive, negative, neutral. Any thoughts you may have, I'd love to hear them. And if you are a Freemason, let me know where you're from. I'd love to hear it. If you're not a Freemason, but you have questions about it, I'd love to hear your answers to that as well. You can answer our poll question. Well, September up topic, I don't really have any information I can provide you on that. What I'll say is if you do want to contact me, that is the way to do it. squareandcompass.ca/contact. Shoot me off an email at least, and I'll try to answer if I can. But I don't really know much about the rules around studying English, or what the rules are, what the visa requirements are. I know that there's different requirements depending on where you're from. Well, if you want to follow me on Instagram, and then I can follow you back. First meeting as a fellow craft. Congratulations, Spirit. I love the fellow craft degree. I love the second degree. I think I talked to you about this before, Spirit. Second degree, in my opinion, suffers from middle child syndrome. Doesn't get near the respect it deserves, unfortunately, because it is, at least I view in the States as well as in Canada, it is such a wonderful and amazing degree. I love the lessons of it. And so I do hope that, you enjoy your time as a fellow craft. And it's okay to take your time. And welcome to everybody. If you are just joining us, please, September, Philip, everybody else who's watching this, if you've not done so, I hope that you will be so kind as to hit the like button and the subscribe button. September, shoot me off a message, kind of on Facebook, and I'll see what I can do. I can't make any promises, though. It just depends if I have any information to provide. We're going to give this another probably 30 minutes. Then we're going to switch over and start talking about some of our specific topics, which again is going to be Freemasonry being filmed, professional wrestling, AEW, being filmed at the Detroit Masonic Temple, as well as Real ID program a little bit. Truly appreciate it, Philip. Truly appreciate everybody who's subscribed. Thank you so much for that. I wonder if there's anything actually on, will I talk about this? AEW, Detroit, AEW talks. I wonder if there's anything about them actually talking specifically about the Detroit Masonic Temple. Oh, here it is. Rhino talks about wrestling at the Masonic Temple in Detroit. Let's see if he mentions the Masonic Temple in particular. We'll see if we can hear this. If I could actually. Here it is.
Section is just a place for people to bend. Starfleet is here to make sure no one commits murder. Don't get your prime directives in a bunch.
This is just an advertisement for a Star Trek show. I used to love Star Trek back in the day. It's been a while. Now my tastes go more toward horror movies, but it's a separate can of tuna.
All Elite Wrestling, also known as the AEW, is coming to Detroit tomorrow night, bringing its dynamic and collision events to the Masonic Temple Theater. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, also known as MJF, Tony Storm, and Will Ospreay are some of the big company names that will be fighting in the ring during that two-night showcase. But the main attraction will be the AEW debut of wrestling legend and Detroit native Terrence Rhino Guerin. Earlier today, we spoke with the multi-championship winning wrestler about what makes Detroit the ideal
Wow,
backdrop
7 p.m. All right, it is
event.
2:09 here.
Detroit's always been great for wrestling, and it's not the first time AEW's come through town, in even Michigan. So
Thank you so much, September. I appreciate
the
it.
reason why you'd want to hold such a great event like this here in Detroit is the fans, and it's such a cool place, and the Masonic Temple is a great venue for wrestling, and it's a beautiful venue. So if you haven't been there, it's something you don't want to miss.
Nice.
Dynamite.
Thank you, Rhino, for that. He is absolutely a wrestling legend, by the way. And for him to say such nice things, I love it. I wonder if Rhino is on the I will for sure. I'll just take a look at it. Like I said, I'm still live streaming right now, so I'm going to be live streaming for at least a couple more hours, or at least another hour. But then I'll look and I'll see what I can do to get back to you. But I absolutely hope that you are doing well, and I'll do my best to answer. Welcome, by the way. If you're just joining us, please take a moment to let me know how you're doing. We're going to switch over to our main topic in a second, the AEW filming Dynamite and Collision, and filming Dynamite and Collision at the Detroit Masonic Temple. I love hearing everybody saying such good things about the venue. It is absolutely the most beautiful venue, one of the most beautiful venues in the world for everything, including professional wrestling. There's been a lot of independent promotions that wrestle at the Detroit Masonic Temple, but this is the first time, to my knowledge, such a major wrestling promotion has actually done a whole show at the Detroit Masonic Temple. So I'm doing well. Like I said, we'll give it another, let's say, 10 minutes or so, and then let's start in with our main topic, our main conversation pieces, which again, professional wrestling being filmed at the Detroit Masonic Temple, as well as Real ID. And as always, if you are just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know if you're a fan of professional wrestling, if you watch professional wrestling at AEW, or sorry, at Detroit. I'd love to hear about that. The Real ID USA. So I guess, by the way, as we just wait. So it is the first day. According to Toronto Star, most airports are operating smoothly on the first day. Most airports are operating smoothly on the first day Real ID requirement. That is true. It is better to argue than to fight, although sometimes fighting tends to be unavoidable. Just football, aka soccer, and basketball. Okay, I used to be a big fan of football, but American style football. But right now, the only sports I really follow is professional wrestling. I'm just so busy with Freemasonry. I don't have time to follow anything else. Most airports around the United States operate smoothly as new Real ID requirements took effect Wednesday. because travelers without the updated documents were still allowed to move through security easily. Those without the IDs were given a piece of paper informing them that going forward they would need to present real ID or other federally accepted ID for air travel within the U.S. It includes a QR code travelers can use to see a list of acceptable identifications. The ID you presented is not real ID compliant. You will need a real ID or other acceptable form of identification for your next flight, or you may expect delays. 81% of travelers already have real IDs. Okay. The new requirements for domestic flights has been the subject of much discussion on social media in recent weeks, with people expressing confusion about whether they can travel without a real ID, sharing details about wait times, and seeking advice on how to meet the requirements. Airport security checkpoints are also accepted passports and tribal identification as usual. Wait time is less than 20 minutes, so there you go. But I feel like if I were to search for some stuff on social media, I'm guessing some of the conspiracy theorists will pop up. Gentlemanly sport. Happy Real ID Day. That was Real IDs are now required for TSA checkpoints and entering federal buildings, but our data team took a look to see if real IDs are actually more secure. I can't imagine a sport lasting 5 days. I think that's crazy. Impressive, but crazy. So I guess actually the current pope is the first American pope in history. As it should be, as it should be. All right, well, let's start talking a little bit about the topics I wanted to address today. But again, if at any point anybody jumps in and has any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them and do my best to try to answer them when it comes to Freemasonry. So what are they going to do in Freemasonry? Well, I mean, it kind of depends, right? Freemasonry is a very broad area. I mean, I can speak for what I do in Freemasonry, which very much, again, depends on the day. The standard things that Freemasons do is meet. To be a Freemason is to meet with other members. Kind of the purpose of any fraternity is to meet, right, with your membership and your brothers or your sisters, and to create friendships through shared experiences, through ritual work, as well as through the other work that you do, right? Oftentimes Freemasons have business meetings where it's not business in the sense of trying to make money, it's business in the sense of the administrative tasks of running an organization, any organization. Reading minutes, reading correspondence, paying bills, discussing membership concerns, discussing building concerns, all the administrative things that are necessary to maintain any type of organization. And then there are ritual days where you are bringing new members in and you're performing ritual degrees, we call them. And again, the reason those are so important is to create bonds through shared experiences. If everybody has gone through the same ritual and shared the same experiences, then one of the benefits of that is we are more than likely going to be able to maintain some type of brotherhood. Membership in a Masonic lodge, right? To be a Freemason, you need to be a member of a Masonic lodge or a Masonic body. So in the States right now, the membership numbers are approximately 850,000, which is actually much lower than it used to be. But hopefully we can start to turn that around a little bit. In Canada, I don't know the numbers nationally, but in Ontario, it's approximately 28,500. And when you're a member, one of the things you get is a membership card to confirm your membership. You know, I always travel with all of my membership cards. But having said that, membership cards are not the exclusive way to determine membership. You also should, if you're a Mason, even if somebody has a card, right? The card may be old, it may be expired, so you have a responsibility to ask them questions to make sure they're still a member and still active and paid their dues and all that type of stuff, especially if they're traveling. I don't live in a state, I live in a province. I live in Ontario, Canada. The closest state to me is Detroit, Michigan, though. It's right across the water. It's very, very close to me, which I love. Even though a lot of people are kind of, for various reasons, a lot of Canadians, including a lot of Canadian Masons, are concerned about traveling to the States. And I even have some of those concerns. Definitely the last time I traveled to the States, it felt a little bit different. I still love it. So, and at the end of the day, I love my Masonic brothers, whether they be in Canada or in the States. So I think it's still worth traveling to the States to support, not necessarily to support the country and all that they're doing, but to support my Masonic brothers in the States who are doing some pretty incredible things. So, once again, so let's talk about the first topic. More broadly speaking, professional wrestling, or more broadly speaking, events being held at our Masonic building. Public events being held, specifically public events at our Masonic buildings. So I'm going to make that the next poll question. Does your Masonic building host public events, or have you attended a public event at a Masonic building? Just got to make this the right size. Oh, I'm one away. How do I do this? There we go. So yesterday, All Elite Wrestling, which usually, in terms of its viewership, so All Elite Wrestling, which is an American professional wrestling company, I would say the number 2 company in the world. Yesterday, it hosted, or it filmed in front of a live audience, its flagship show, Dynamite, at the Detroit Masonic Temple Theater. Usually viewership is between 500,000 to 1 million, usually around 600,000 to 700,000. People watching, as well as they sold, let me see if I can find the number here. WrestleTix usually says it. They sold collision. Dun, dun, dun. AEW Dynamite, Wednesday, May 7th. As of yesterday, they had distributed 2,822 tickets. So basically, the Detroit Masonic Temple Theater yesterday held a professional wrestling show filmed at their location, which brought in 2,822 individuals into the building to watch it live, as well as likely they had between 500,000 to 1 million people watching the event on television, and that's internationally. That doesn't count all of the press and advertising done for the event, all the posters, social media posts, which mention specifically the Masonic Temple as the venue. So who knows what you actually saw in terms of promotion of the venue as well as promotion of Freemasonry in general. But again, we can assume, I would say we can assume safely, over 1 million people throughout the world at least saw a reference to Freemasonry, Masonic buildings, or Masonic rooms because of AEW choosing that as the venue location. And as a result, you also saw significant advertisement for the venue and again for Freemasonry. Professional wrestling superstar, professional wrestling legend Rhino on CBS News mentioned specifically the Detroit Masonic Temple as being a beautiful venue and as being something worth traveling to. Aside from the wrestling, just seeing the venue itself. Social media posts, right? You had, for example, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, posting on their official Twitter, Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter are brawling all over the Masonic Temple Theater. So again, right there you have the phrase Masonic Temple Theater being referenced in a tweet that as of right now has 1.9 thousand likes, 59 comments, 462 retweets, reposts, and 101.6 thousand views. AEW on TV also posted on Twitter, the Masonic Temple Choir of Detroit under the baton of Samoa Joe as he and Claudio face off now. So again, you are seeing Freemasonry referenced in a tweet by AEW. That tweet being seen by, let's see, as of today, 6,726 views. And just in general in terms of the public, Drainmaker on Twitter, tonight's Dynamite venue is gorgeous. Masonic Temple Theater in Detroit, fire emoji. WrestleTube, Masonic Temple Theater Detroit put up some amazing and beautiful pictures of the building, of the venue, of the setup. Zach Hoffman, AEW Dynamite is live tonight from the Masonic Temple Theater in Detroit. Juan RC, card for tonight's live AEW Dynamite from the Masonic Temple in Detroit. And then the actual AEW Dynamite poster. On the bottom left-hand corner, you see Masonic in big capital letters. You have got fireworks, you have got amazing lighting. Let me see if I can find any more. I love seeing Speedball Mike Bailey, Jet to Fly. I love seeing them filming something in the back of the Detroit Masonic Temple at a place I've been a million times. So it's kind of fun seeing that. Ed Boggs, one of the best Osprey promos he's done, if you ask me. Intensity to it, very good. Also, the Masonic Temple in Detroit. Awesome setup and loud crowd. So again, just the number of social media posts we're seeing, not just on Twitter, but Twitter as well as, or X, as well as Blue Sky, as well as Facebook, as well as YouTube, all mentioning Detroit Masonic Temple, all just mentioning the word Masonic. I mean, I think that stuff is just critical for lodge, like for Freemasonry and for our lodges and for buildings. I truly believe, and I've talked about this before, if Freemasonry is going to survive, it needs to be relevant to the communities in which it's located. And relevance doesn't mean exclusively relevant to Masons. It means relevant to everybody, relevant to the whole community. One of the ways that you can make a building, you can make Freemasonry relevant, is by Masonic buildings holding events within, holding national events, holding international events, holding events that are going to be filmed and shared to millions of people, whether it be through social media, on television. And we're seeing that here. Again, every time there's a tweet, post, something on Blue Sky, something on Facebook, every time there's something that references, that uses the word Masonic, that is something that is increasing the relevance of Freemasonry in the community. In this case, it's increasing the relevance of Freemasonry to wrestling fans, but there are millions of wrestling fans around the world, as well as the economic benefits. What does it mean economically to see AEW showing up in Detroit? All the fans who traveled to Detroit, all the hotel rooms that had to be booked, all of the, not just for the hotel rooms for the fans who traveled there, but all the hotel rooms that had to be booked for the wrestlers who had to travel there, all of the hotel rooms that had to be booked for production staff, the restaurants that people are going to go to before or after the show, the venue, the money brought into the venue itself. I mean, all that stuff is increasing the relevance, right? When a restaurant owner who, let's say, has a really great night at his restaurant, thinks about Freemasonry, he's going to be thankful for the Detroit Masonic Temple because it provided a venue to host this show, to bring in all of these people. When Detroit, the city, thinks about the Detroit Masonic Temple, they're going to be grateful it exists because it provided a venue to bring in all of these people, to bring in all of this crew and fans to help the economy of the city, right? So I understand that a lot of Masonic buildings can be very nervous about opening themselves up to the public. There's concerns about insurance risks, which are real, without question. There are concerns about, will it result in negative press if the people we rented out to maybe have some more negative connotations, like you saw with Ireland and with Conor McGregor, right? And I understand and respect all of those concerns, but we're at a stage now where if we don't find a way in Freemasonry to grow our relevance on social media, to grow our relevance to our communities, to grow our relevance to people, to grow our relevance economically, I don't think Freemasonry is going to make it. And I think opening, and I mean, the Detroit Masonic Temple in general is absolutely an incredible and amazing example of that, without a doubt. But for all the things that they do. But I think wrestling, again, wrestling is a super unique promotion to bring to a Masonic Temple, because you need to think about things you don't think about in other types of concerts, right? When you have a stage, you need to think about ring setup, lighting, pyrotechnics, how you're going to set up the ring, as well as how are you going to set yourself up to film, live, how you're going to do backstage promos, where you're going to do filming. But again, nothing but credit and respect to AEW for going there, for doing an amazing show last night, as well as what will be another amazing show tonight. as well as nothing but respect to AEW for the Detroit Masonic Temple for providing the venue and doing an incredible job as well. You know, if we type in even on Twitter, and just because you maybe don't have the capacity to have this isn't meant to say to a professional wrestling, this is meant to say to a Masonic venue or Masons, you need to hold professional wrestling shows or massive shows in your building. But think about what you can do. Maybe you're not the right size to host AEW. Maybe you can open up your building to smaller venues, to smaller wrestling promotions that will have a couple hundred people show up. Maybe it's not wrestling at all, but maybe you can provide your venue for a theater company to do some productions. Maybe you can provide space for your venue for people to host union meetings or community group meetings or some type of thing. Essex Masonic Temple was a voting station in the last federal election. Like, there are millions of ways that our Masonic buildings can be made available to the public, opened up for public use. In response, not only does the building potentially gain a new revenue source, but you can do nothing but increase the relevance of the building to that community. I mentioned Essex Masonic Building, Essex Masonic Temple being a voting location in the last federal election. Now everybody who voted there in Essex, they now have a connection to that building they didn't have before. They now feel that that building is more relevant to them, more relevant to their community, and maybe now they're thinking to themselves, hey, would it be worth booking an event there that I'm trying to run? Am I part of a group that needs space and is looking for a space to rent? I voted at the Masonic Temple. Maybe I can, I got to see the space. Maybe I can use it for something else. Or maybe I'm interested in joining Freemasonry now, or know somebody who's interested in joining Freemasonry, and I've been to the building. I know it. I'm more comfortable there. So again, big or small, in my opinion, I speak only for myself, opening up our Masonic buildings to public events is a necessary thing if Freemasonry expects to survive in the coming decades. I mean, I'm just looking at this now. Slam Wrestling, 26 minutes ago. AEW takes the Masonic Temple, Detroit. Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. The road to Double or Nothing continued last night when AEW returned to Detroit at the Masonic Temple Theater for Dynamite. Wrestle Scoops. AEW set at the Masonic Temple in Detroit. Sold out. 3K in attendance. Saw a great show. How many people saw the poster? We're at the bottom left. Live tonight, 8/7 Central TBS, Detroit, Michigan, Masonic Temple Theater. Again, what's in the biggest letters? Masonic. So everybody who saw that, and maybe some people have thought in the past about joining Freemasonry, about what that could mean. Now they put it at the back of their mind. Now they've gone to a wrestling show at the Detroit Masonic Temple. Maybe they've just seen it on a poster, they see it on social media, it brings it back to the forefront of their mind. Now they're thinking, hey, maybe I should start looking at that application again. It's about relevance. Honolulu Blue, AEW Dynamite at the Masonic Temple in Detroit, Michigan. Claudio coming up from an elevator from hell, which I totally understand it being located in a Masonic Temple in Detroit. That sounds a little bit like the guy's anti-masonry, but again, AEW Dynamite live in Detroit. AEW Dynamite is live from Detroit's Masonic Temple Theater, promising an action-packed night for wrestling fans. The event features a range of high-stakes matches. That's from Political Maverick. Blue checkmark. Looks like 77 views as of right now. Jackson Teen, Masonic Temple, Detroit. Masonic's in some of the biggest letters there. It's on WrestleTix. And I mean, Kenny Omega has done an incredible job, as he should. He is absolutely one of the best. I mean, one of the most important professional wrestlers of all time as well. What he managed to accomplish and the fact he managed to accomplish outside of the Detroit Masonic, outside of the WWE is absolutely incredible. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. If you get the chance, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. I've been talking a lot about the AEW holding its flagship event at the Detroit Masonic Temple. Why I think that's so important, why I think that's so vital, and why I think it can only result in growth and improvement in Freemasonry, because it increases the relevance of our building, right? Interesting. One vote. Does your Masonic building host public events? Have you attended a public event at the Masonic building? Yes, 100%. No, 0%. Oh, yes, 50%. No, 50%. To the person who said no, can you let me know why you said no, what the reason was? If it's because you're a member of the public, is it just that you're not aware of any events at Masonic buildings? Or your town doesn't have a Masonic building? If it's a yes, if it's that you're a Mason and your building doesn't hold public events, is it because it's not set up for that? Is it that you don't own the building? Is it that there are concerns? I'd love to know the reason for the answer. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I do want to thank everybody for being here. Again, thank you so much. I hope everybody is having a great day. I had an excellent installation yesterday, by the way. I loved it. Thank you so much to everybody who came to take part. It was a really special, it was a full day of events. It started at 9. Finished at about 2:30. We had 2 presentations in the morning, combined with 2 presentations in the morning, combined with some giveaways, where it was just everybody who showed up, combined with, it was just a really, really fun, combined with an excellent installation, combined with some education. It was a blast, so I loved it. And I'm honored to be the Worshipful Master of Border Cities Lodge. It was a rough couple months in January, February, but March, April, May have been really great for a lot of us in a lot of different ways. In our buildings, we're seeing some great turnouts lately. Let's hope in Essex we can keep the momentum alive. I have a lot of respect for the Masonic people, says Chris Castro. Well, no. I mean, if you know they're not a Freemason, then you shouldn't use any grip with them at all. The purpose of the grip is to determine if they are a Freemason, right? So it's a mode of recognition. So If you know for certain they're not, then you shouldn't, just use a grip. If you're wondering and you're curious, then it's okay to use the grip. Absolutely, my first installation will be with me forever. It will be very fond, incredibly fond memory. I remember I absolutely loved it. So, yeah, it was really, really special. And Chris, welcome. I hope you hit the like button. I hope you hit the subscribe button. I did also want to mention briefly Real ID program because that is today. I've said it a million times. To be Freemason is to be a traveler. What being a traveler means, amongst other things, is you need to be aware of the rules and requirements surrounding travel. If you're traveling to a Masonic lodge and you need to fly to get there, do you know how to get on a plane? Do you know the ID requirements in your country to get on a plane? What are those requirements, etc., etc. And if you look at, which is open today, it is a requirement today to have Real ID. Real ID FAQs from Homeland Security. What is Real ID? Passed by Congress in 2005, the Real ID Act enabled the 9/11 Commission's recommendation that the federal government set standards for the issuance of sources of identification, such as driver's licenses. The Act established minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards, and prohibits certain federal agencies from accepting for official purposes licenses and identification cards from states that do not meet these standards. When will Real ID be enforced? The enforcement date is May 7th, 2025. So the purposes of the Real ID to access federal facilities or certain federal facilities, boarding federally regulated commercial aircraft, entering nuclear power plants. Probably. I mean, there is Freemasonry in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not positive on. I don't even know what the actual region of sub-Saharan Africa is. Let me check. Central Africa, East Africa. Looks like actually it's a lot of Africa. So yes, there is Freemasonry in sub-Saharan Africa. I know a few brothers from that area, actually, to be honest. So, they are credit to the craft. What happens when Real ID enforcement date begins? Federal agencies, including DHS and TSA, may only accept state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards as identification for purposes of accessing federal facilities, including TSA airport security checkpoints, if the license or card was issued by Real ID compliant state in accordance with Real ID security standards. How do I get a Real ID? Visit your state's driver's licensing agency website to find out exactly what documentation is required to obtain a Real ID. At a minimum, you must provide documentation showing full legal name, date of birth, social security number, 2 proofs of address on principal residence, lawful status. States may impose additional requirements, so check with your state's driver's licensing agency website before visiting them in person. How do I know if my license or identification card is Real ID compliant? Real ID compliant cards will have a star marking on the upper top portion of the card. If the card does not have a star marking, it is not Real ID compliant and won't be accepted as proof of identity to board commercial aircraft. Enhanced driver's licenses and enhanced identification cards are also acceptable forms of identification and can be used to board commercial aircraft. EDL EIDs can be identified by having an image of the US flag and the word enhanced at the top of the card. And they're showing a bunch of different examples of it. When will I need to change how I travel domestically? Beginning May 7th, 2025, every state and territory resident will need to present a real ID compliant license or another acceptable form of identification for accessing federal facilities. Entering nuclear power plants and boarding commercial aircraft, the card itself must be real ID compliant unless the resident is using an alternative acceptable document such as a passport or passport card or state-issued enhanced driver's license. The Act does not require individuals to present identification where it is not currently required to access a federal facility, etc., etc. Is a passport my only other option? No. So there are other options outside of a passport if you don't have a real ID. Do I need a passport if I have a real ID? If you're traveling internationally, you will still need a passport. So those are just some of the questions. Again, if you are a Freemason, if you're going to be traveling to another lodge, and if that travel involves you need to take a flight or to board the flight, you need to have a real ID. Again, there are other options. Some people may prefer, and I've even seen some people comment to me and say they'd rather just drive, or they would rather drive, they would rather take a bus, whatever it might be, because they don't want to get the real ID, which is fine. Everybody can kind of choose how they want to proceed, but I just would remind people the necessity and the value of, if you're traveling for Freemasonry, if you're traveling for anything, you have a responsibility to know the requirements, to know the importance of what are required when you're traveling. So always, always keep that in mind. I'm going to give this a couple more minutes, but then I'm going to be jumping off because I do have to potentially take care of some stuff really quickly. By the way, nothing but congratulations again to, I said this before, nothing but congratulations to Detroit and to Detroit Masonic Temple on absolutely an amazing job hosting AEW professional wrestling. I think from everything I've seen, they did an incredible job, and Twitter, X, Blue Sky are absolutely talking about how wonderful of a job they did. So keep up the great work. And if you are new, I hope that you will take a moment to follow me on Patreon. Follow me here, hit the like and subscribe button. And I hope that if nothing else, this encouraged you to maybe think about the public-facing aspects of your Masonic buildings. Even Dad, I know the East Codona Masonic Temple is smaller. It doesn't have like venue space for things like theater productions or wrestling shows, but I feel like in that room, it could host meetings for, let's say, a union meeting or a community group meeting or a neighborhood watch meeting. It could potentially, you have a kitchen there. Maybe they could run cooking classes there. A chef wants a space to do some cooking. Maybe we've done this in Windsor, this space could be used by a chef who runs a catering business and wants to host needs a place to cook some food. Maybe it could be the space for a wedding shower or, a smaller social gathering. Again, because it's smaller, it's not going to be expensive. And there may be people who are looking to hold an event, a baby shower, whatever it is, but they want it to be smaller and they don't want it to cost a lot. I feel like the East Codona Masonic Temple could be potentially a great option. And so I hope that this, if nothing else, helps people keep that in mind. Again, my opinions for whatever they're worth. Please, if you are just joining us, though, I hope you will take a moment to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how it's going. And as always, any questions, thoughts, comments you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Good. That is wonderful to hear, and I hope that it keeps up. Because again, in my opinion, you are only going to see, it's just nothing but benefit from doing so. And again, I think a lot of times Masonic temples, yes, you have the big buildings, Philadelphia, Detroit, Indiana, where you can host massive events. But oftentimes, I think what people are really looking for are smaller venues that are likely less expensive, but that nonetheless can provide opportunities for, you don't need a 500, 2,000 seat venue. You just need a place that can seat 50 people, maybe 50 to 75. Where do they go? Masonic temples provide that opportunity or that option. Thank you, everybody who has joined us so far. Let's give it another minute or two. See on the off chance if anybody else jumps on, but I do believe, because I have a ton of work I do need to do, getting ready for this weekend. Oh, I did not know that. Wish her happy birthday for me. I think I've got her phone number somewhere. Or is she on Facebook? Is she in the Book of Faces? Maybe what I'll do is I'll send her a message that way. Trying to think if she's on Facebook. If not, just wish her happy birthday on my behalf and tell her I love her. I know that Mom loved her too very much, so I'm sure Mom is wishing Lisa a happy birthday from up in heaven. Okay, I think let's call this stream. All right, let us call the stream for today, but that doesn't mean we won't be back with some more streams in the coming days. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Congratulations again, AEW, Detroit Masonic Temple, on an incredible job. All right, guys, have a good day, and I'll see you all soon.